Hey, what's going on, YouTube? Son of Sanguinius here, and in case you've been living under a rock for, I don't know, the last couple of days or so, GW has released an announcement news officially confirming 8th edition 40k. So, on Warhammer community site and on their Facebook page, they announced a new website called warhammer40000.com that, basically dedicated, to the entire game. And on that website, you can see sort of the video that they posted on YouTube, a short 1-minute clip basically announcing the new edition. And also, they have released a new edition FAQ. And so because everyone and their grandmother has been going crazy about this and making a video about it, I figured I would probably do the same. So, we're not going to, we probably will cover most of the bullets here. But this is really nice to see GW do. It inspires confidence to a certain extent, seeing them be as open as they are now. Obviously, this is not the same company that we were dealing with a year and a half or 2 years ago. That being said, there were still some issues, some really weird decisions in 7th edition, things like, Death from the Skies and Angel's Blade, and just some really weird decisions that didn't quite make a whole lot of sense, that hopefully moving to a new edition will be kind of a nice way to sort of clean up all those problems that we have had in this edition. Speaking from a Blood Angels perspective, but we'll just dive right into this new FAQ. So the first question here is my army still valid? Yes, it certainly is. You will be able to use your army in the new edition of Warhammer 40,000. All current armies will be supported with new rules. So the first thing to say about this is awesome. It's nice to see that they're not squatting any armies. The only thing that I would say is when they say supported with, all current armies will be supported with new rules, hopefully it won't be an Age of Sigmar situation where, yes, all armies are technically supported by the rules, but, they canceled, for example, the Britannia line, and they haven't really, as far as I'm aware, please correct me in the comment section down below if I'm wrong, they haven't really released any new content for Britannia, or Britannia, however you pronounce it. They haven't released any new content for them. So basically you're left with the couple of PDF data sheets for each of the units, and that's it. I do not want to see that happen with any armies in 8th edition 40k. I want everyone, every army to sort of have their own, I don't know if you'd call it a battle tome or something, along those lines, where everyone gets some neat toys, everyone gets, some neat, formations, for a lack of a better term, relics and special rules and all that good stuff. I'm really hoping that, again, they don't go down the road of Age of Sigmar. I'm tempted to say that they won't, considering they seem to have, they seem to have taken heed from the backlash that Age of Sigmar got when it was first released. So, moving on to the next question here. Can I still use all of my models? Yes, every Warhammer 40,000 miniature we sell today will be usable in the new edition of Warhammer 40,000. What's more, they'll be supported with new rules, which will be available from the get-go in handy, low-cost books. So, I suppose the nice thing to sort of take away from this is, low-cost books. So, once we get a little bit further down, it will become perhaps sort of apparent that the idea of codex, the idea of codices, may not make a return in 8th edition. They may be going away. We can talk about that a little bit later. But the nice thing here is that they're saying, supported with new rules, it will be available from the get-go in handy, low-cost books. So my guess is they're going to release almost if not everything that we would need to play our army. So I would expect to see something along the lines of, like I said, some sort of like battle tome or something for each of the armies. but we'll get down through this FAQ, and we'll see that there's a good chance that the actual data slates for each of the units will be free. So, next question here. Even Forge World models? Yes, even all of your Warhammer 40,000 Forge World models. This is big because a lot of the times that we've seen in the past when transitioning to a new edition, Forge World has always been kind of slow in keeping up. And this brings up the question of, okay, well, is GW going to, A, include Forge World data sheets in with the other entries for each army? So, for example, if you were playing Space Marines in 8th edition, you'd obviously have the online PDF for a tactical squad, but you may also have an online PDF for something like, what's one? One of the various Land Raider variants, like the Spartan Assault Tank. So that would be pretty interesting to see, and it'd be pretty good to see. Because that way we can have all of the rules that we need to play our army, regardless of whether we get them from GW or Forge World, all in one place, and hopefully, like I said, the data slates themselves for the units will be available as a free online PDF. So, next question here. Wait, did you guys blow up the universe? Ha ha ha. Nope, this is very much still the Warhammer 40,000 setting you know and love. Now, that's not to say we won't advance the story. There's some pretty epic stuff ahead. You can certainly expect us to see the story arcs that we began in the recent Gathering Storm campaign books to continue to unfold, with plenty of exciting developments to look forward to. So, not too much to say about this. We've kind of known that GW was planning on, going forward with it. Obviously, once you got to the end of the Gathering Storm books, GW kind of put the brakes on, and we haven't really seen too much advancement from there. But, we know about, the Devastation of Baal that's coming out September or something like that. For Blood Angels, we got some stuff to look forward to. Hopefully Baal won't get destroyed. I really don't think Baal will get destroyed, but it will be interesting to see what they do with not only Blood Angels, but with the other armies going forward. So, next question here. How can I get the rules? We're going to make it easier than ever to get your hands on the rules and start playing. The core rules for the game will be free, and you'll have several options on how you get your hands on the full rulebook. Watch this space for more. So again, some pretty good news here. It's nice to see that we won't have to necessarily spend $80 on a new rulebook. It should also be noted that, like I'm assuming this is going to be something like Age of Sigmar, where you can download the 4 pages of rules, like just the basic core rules, online for free. But then if you want to go into the more advanced stuff, there will be a separate book for that, i.e. the General's Handbook, which I'm not entirely opposed to, because, again, they mention here further down in the FAQ that they are sort of steering the 40k rules for 8th edition in the direction of Age of Sigmar. So, next question here. Have you dumbed down 40k? No, not at all. We've made it easier for new people to enter and get grips with the basics. At the same time, we've made sure that you can add as much depth and complexity as you'd like. There's some fantastic new gameplay elements coming. What we've done is re-examine every aspect of the game and made plenty of improvements, many based on the gaming community's feedback and suggestions. If you play today, this game is recognizably still Warhammer 40,000. So, okay. I wouldn't say that they will dumb down 40k. I would say it's more along the lines of streamlining, and I do make a distinction there. Case in point with the armor modifying system, instead of having 3 separate kind of saves, that being armor, cover, and invulnerable, they sort of roll them all up into one. So, for example, a good example would be Terminator armor. So instead of Terminators having a 2-up armor save with a 5-up invuln, they could have something like a 3-up on 2d6. And then cover and cover and terrain may alter the ballista skill of the shooter, or it may improve the save of the Terminator in question. So basically, they're kind of rolling up all the saves into one, and although mechanically it's slightly different, it has the same effect, and it's simpler. And like I said, I'm not entirely opposed to that. I think that 40K as it is now is definitely bloated, and I think the real trick is to try and carve off the fat without getting rid of any of the meat. And I think that's what a lot of people are worried about with this new edition. Personally, I think we might lose a little bit of meat, but I'd imagine we would still have a fairly decent steak by the time GW is done, hopefully. So, next question here, what happens to my codexes? The rules in our current range of Warhammer 40,000 codexes aren't compatible with the new edition of Warhammer 40,000. These books will be going off sale very soon. If you do want to pick up any, now's the time, as all of the great hobby content and background information will be as valid as ever. So this is another thing that some people have gotten upset about, and I can understand why, and you may expect me to be, raging and make a 18-minute rant video about it, but to be honest, I came into this hobby knowing full well that, codices are not... They're not eternal, they do go out of date, and, with this new edition, I was kind of hoping that they would find a way to, port over, some of the supplements and stuff, from Angel's Blade, but from what I'm hearing, this will be a clean start for everyone as soon as this new edition hits. So, we'll have to see what GW does with it. Again, like I said, I'm not entirely displeased because the fluff and everything is still valid, and so is the hobby stuff. But really, I think what's gotten people bummed down is if you play Space Marines, for example, the Space Marine Codex in 7th edition is pretty good, and so is the Angels of Death supplement. It's pretty good, and I don't think people really want to lose having those formations and all those other neat toys that they get. And I can understand that because, in Angel's Blade we got some neat toys for Blood Angels, and it'll kind of suck that we don't really have that anymore, but like I said, we'll have to wait and see what they port over, if they want to port over anything, or if they're going to introduce something new for each of the armies that would, in some other way fill in for a Decurion-style detachment or formations or what have you. So we'll have to wait and see. Next question. What's in the new starter box? A new starter box? That'd be exciting. I guess we'd fill it with some awesome new miniatures. Come on, we can't spoil all the surprises for you. So that's another interesting thing, too. I've seen some people speculate that the starter box might be Raven Guard versus Death Guard, because we've seen at the cover for the new edition, we've seen what appears to be a Raven Guard, sort of like that, Space Marine, holding like two pistols. Half of him is like the black. It actually looks kind of blue to me. At first I thought it was Ultramarines, but then I looked at some of like the iconography and stuff like that, and it looks closer to Raven Guard to me. So you got a Raven Guard on the left side of the screen, and then you have a Death Guard on the right side of the screen. People have speculated that it might be, Raven Guard versus Death Guard for the new starter box. I think that'd be interesting. Simply because, obviously with each of these, starter boxes, you have to have, the iconic Space Marines of some flavor or variant. Then you have to have some iconic bad guys, so orcs or Tyranids or something like, Chaos Space Marines too. And I think that, if they did go with Chaos Space Marines, I think they'd be, to a new buyer, to a new player in 40K, Death Guard would be more visually readable as sort of the de facto bad guys, because not only are they covered in spikes, but they're rotting away and they got mouths in their torso, and it's the new Death Guard models, at least from what we've seen, look pretty cool. So that's just one theory. I'm also kind of curious to see what they're gonna do with the Devastation of Baal, because I'm curious to see what kind of, if they did do a box set like they did with Deathstorm, and I would imagine that they would do some sort of box set for the Devastation of Baal. At least I hope they do. I'd be very curious to see what kind of models we could expect in there. Maybe a new Dante, maybe a new Gabriel Seth, maybe, whatever we need updated, and hopefully it'll be in plastic and not resin. So, next question here. Are you getting rid of points? Not at all. There will be a full point system for use in matched play, one of 3 ways to play covered in the rulebook. So, most of the things that I was going to talk about are in the next question here, but this is just confirmation that, yeah, points are not going away. They will still be a thing in 8th edition 40k. So the next question here. What do you mean 3 ways to play? We realize that people like to play Warhammer 40,000 in different ways. 3 broad systems are covered in the new edition. 1. Open play is the most flexible and easiest to get started with, allowing you to use any miniatures you like. 2. Narrative play is where you can refight the iconic battles of the 41st millennium, or create your own campaigns and sagas. 3. Match play is designed for more balanced and competitive games, ideal for gaming clubs, leagues, and tournaments. However you want to enjoy playing Warhammer 40,000, there will be rules for that. So again, I've seen mostly positive reactions to this, although I have seen some kind of like negativity or whatever. I think it's mainly from players who haven't actually played Age of Sigmar. I haven't either, but I do have some sort of a basic understanding of what these 3 things are. So the first one here is open play. It says it's the most flexible and it's the easiest to get started with, allowing you to use any miniatures that you like. Honestly, if I had to sort of describe what this is, I would say it's some people would call it Unbound, but I'd go a little bit further because I don't think that there would even be like a point system with open play. I think it would literally be you bring whatever models you want to play with. Referencing the data slate, that you need to. There probably wouldn't be any kind of detachments, no formations, just the models with whatever weapons they got, and you just, you move around your units, and you just have, an easy, fun time, Clearly, I think it's geared toward new players, but from the other perspective, it may also just be kind of, you don't really want to, if you and your buddy don't really want to screw around trying to build, build a list for a competitive format. You can just say, screw it, we're just going to throw down some models, set up some terrain, hopefully in the reverse order, and just, have a go with it and just, enjoy the game. So I don't have a problem with that, mainly because it's not being forced on anyone. It's important to remember that these are 3 ways to play, and you get to choose which way, so it's not as though you're being forced to play open play or forced to play narrative play. So I think that some of the negativity, I think, has been a little bit overstated, in my opinion. But moving on. It says, narrative play is where you can refight iconic battles in the 41st millennium or create your own campaigns and sagas. I think that'll be really cool. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the campaign system. Hopefully, it'll be... I'm kind of hoping that it'll be, fleshed out and complex enough to really encourage, deep and, kind of long campaigns. I don't know that I necessarily want something that's bare bones enough. Although I guess the benefit to that would be you could sort of expand upon that if it was really bare bones. But ultimately, we'll have to see what they do with narrative play. If it's a bust, hey, whatever, you can create your own campaign system with your buddies. If it's good, or if it's just kind of so-so, you can use it as a base, or really just do whatever you want with it. So again, narrative play, I don't really have a problem with, and I'm hoping that it'll be something good. So the third and final way to play is match play. I am envisioning points. I'm envisioning detachments, even if they don't call them detachments, basically some way to structure your army. I'm envisioning formations, so special groups of units that when combined give you some special rules and all that stuff. And I'm really hoping that when they say match play is designed for a more balanced and competitive game, I'm really hoping that they emphasize the balance here, because there is such a huge disparity among many of the armies right now in 40k. And with this new edition, it gives GW a chance to sort of wipe the board clean, start from scratch, and really try and get these armies as close as possible. Will everyone be necessarily equal? No, but they should at least be close enough to where those disparities in power level, those disparities in points, don't make you feel like you're going to get killed as soon as you face a stronger opponent, nor will it make you feel like you're just going to completely crush the guy when you fight a weaker opponent. I say stronger and weaker based on, you know, army versus army. So, for example, you know, Sisters of Battle versus Tau. You know, things like that. You know, they should at least be close enough to where, even if there is a disparity, it doesn't feel like that will ruin the gaming experience for you. So, hopefully, match play will be balanced and it will be enjoyable. So, next question here. Why should I not just stick with the current Warhammer 40,000? This is the version of Warhammer 40,000 you've been asking for. We've listened to your feedback, and we really believe this is the best Warhammer 40,000 has ever been. So, I think the answer to that question should have been, well, because 7th edition isn't going to be supported anymore. So, you know, that's one thing, and there probably won't be any like new models or data slates released for 7th edition once 8th edition hits. But regardless, I feel like this is, you know, GW making an attempt to sort of say, hey, we're different from how we were back then, and we've been listening to you guys. And to GW's credit, they have been listening. They haven't necessarily been addressing every single, you know, criticism that has come their way, but I feel like they are making at least some sort of honest effort to, you know, address it. Obviously, you know, with the questions, for example, with like Angel's Blade, when like everyone asking about the Battle Demi Company, they kind of, you know, skirted away from that question. They didn't really respond to any of that, you know, even though they were perfectly valid questions. But my guess is they probably didn't really have a good answer, and they just decided not to answer, which, you know, that might have, you know, shot them in the foot, but who knows. So that's really all I have to say about that. So moving on to the next question. Will the rules be updated annually a la the General's Handbook? What a great idea. We've had such a fantastic response to our community-led approach with the Warhammer Age of Sigmar rules updates that we're committed to doing the same for Warhammer 40,000. You'll be able to submit your questions and queries on the Warhammer 40,000 Facebook page, and we'll make sure to continue to evolve the game as feedback rolls in. Honestly, I think this is a good thing. If 8th edition rolls out and there's, you know, everything's good for, you know, the first couple of weeks, and then there is some glaring flaw or some huge, you know, gap in power level that becomes obviously, you know, apparent, this is a way for GW to address it immediately instead of having to wait, you know, 2, 3, 4 years for the next edition to roll out. So, I do like this, and I feel like this is going to be a good thing, and hopefully this is a sign that GW is committed to being more open with their fan base, communicating with their fan base, and being more transparent in how they create their rules and how they go about balancing, army to army. So, I'm personally looking forward to that. I think it will be a good thing for the game. So the next question is, well, it's really a statement. I haven't played 40k in a while. Welcome back. The new Warhammer 40,000 is easier to learn and quicker to play, but still has all the tactical, strategic, and narrative depth you could want from a game set in the incredibly rich setting of Warhammer, or the incredibly rich setting of the 41st millennium. It's going to be easier than ever to get started and more fun than ever to master. So, some people have picked out to say that it says, you know, easier to learn and quicker to play, and they've said, well, you know, I don't want, you know, the game to just, you know, be over in, you know, 15 minutes, and I don't think that's going to happen, but, you know, to be fair, the games that I've played, they tend to take 3 to 4 hours. If it's anything less than that, then someone's getting tabled. I could do with, you know, maybe an hour for like a small game, maybe 2 hours for a larger game for 8th edition 40k. It's just that, you know, the game just takes so much time to play out, and it's I suppose the real difference is whether or not you're having fun, and I don't know that standing around for, you know, 4 hours and, you know, just sort of grinding through models is necessarily fun. But regardless of what your opinion is, whether you feel like, the rules and the time spent playing the game is okay, whether it needs to be longer, shorter, whatever. I don't think that a game in 8th edition will be over in 15 or even 30 minutes. I feel like the shortest you're probably going to have to, the shortest amount of time a game will be over in 8th edition will probably be an hour. And it may, larger games may drag down to 2 or 3 hours. Hopefully no more than 4, just because that just kind of wears down on you. And by that point, you're, it's hard to keep focus on things that long, and you lose track of things, and just becomes a pain. So, anyway, next question here: why should I trust you? Come on, this is New Games Workshop trademark. Seriously, though, everything we're talking about now is just an extension of all the community engagement work we've been doing over this last year and a half. We've learned a lot from you guys and gals, and we've tried really hard to make sure everything you've asked for is included. And if we're missing something, drop us a line on the Warhammer 40,000 Facebook page and let us know. We'll make sure your requests are given proper consideration. So again, we're seeing that GW is not blind to the criticism that's been leveled against them in the past, and frankly, that criticism, most if not all of it, well, maybe not all of it, but the majority of it, most of it, was well-deserved criticism. And I feel like this is GW sort of acknowledging that, hey, we've made mistakes in the past, but listen, like, we're really trying hard to listen to you guys, and we're doing this because you asked for it. So again, we'll have to see how it goes. I'm glad to see that they're engaging with the community more. What really matters, though, is how they execute it, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens. So the next question here is, where can I find out more? We'll be running daily articles up on the release of WarhammerCommunity.com. Every aspect of the new edition will be covered, from the rules to the new miniatures and advancements in the setting. Okay, so, just go to WarhammerCommunity.com or probably Warhammer40,000.com. I'm sure that they'll, keep that site posted. So, I love it, I want it, when can I have it? Really soon. You'll be playing the new Warhammer 40,000 this year. We'll let you know when we have more news on the exact release date. Stay posted for all the latest news. Follow us on the Warhammer 40,000 Facebook page or subscribe to our newsletter. So, again, some people have speculated that the new edition will be releasing in June. Some have speculated, June 10th as an exact release date. We'll have to see. So, if you got any models that are sort of backlogged that haven't been built or painted yet, you got about a month before the new edition drops, most likely. So, we'll have to wait and see. And then, the last thing here, what do I do now? Now's the time to start getting your army ready. With the addition of 3 ways to play, there are now more ways to build your collection than ever before. Open play frees you from all constraints, so now's the time to just pick up a model you've always wanted and paint it up. For narrative players, why not start theming your collection around your favorite battle? Just like many of you, we want our armies to be fighting fit for match play in the new edition. That's why you'll be able to read daily articles on the Warhammer community site that will tell you all about the new rules, great units to include, and tactics for every army. So this last one here, half of it is just kind of like, well, what do I do now? And GW says, buy more miniatures, of course. But the other thing that they they mention theming your collection around your favorite army for narrative players. This sort of strikes me to what they've said earlier at their Adepticon talk, where they said they wanted to give thematic armies some, special rules like, re-rolls or something like that, depending on, if you've themed your army correctly. Like I said, that may just be like a special detachment or something that they can bring, or some kind of like formation or something like that. But we'll have to see. And then they also say here that just like many of you, we want our armies to be fighting fit for matched play in the new edition. That's why you'll be able to read daily articles on the Warhammer community site that will tell you all about the new rules, great units to include, and tactics for every army. So the first thing here is that they will be telling us at least some of the rules before the edition, before 8th edition actually comes out, which is great. This way, this will give us like some ideas as to how we want to build our armies, how army building is going to look in 8th edition for match play, And again, this will just be, another level of transparency that GW will be having with the community. And if there's something that is, setting off red flags everywhere, we can be sure to address them before the edition even comes out. That way, assuming that there is some critical major flaw that's, apparent to everyone except GW, we can bring it to their attention and they can fix it before the new edition even drops. They also mentioned, great units to include and tactics for every army. They kind of did something with this on their web store, where they had this really weird brief article for Blood Angels that talked about what's the best HQ and the codex and what to take, and it was kind of weird because most of it was just kind of Space Marine or Blood Angels Librarian, some Assault Marines, and some drop pods or with Jump Axe, and then bring bikes with Grav or whatever. It was just it was just really kind of odd thing for them to write, but it did kind of give us some insight as to how GW sees the armies that they write rules for and that they print out the models for. So we'll have to wait and see what they do with that. I'm hoping that they can at least, in their explanation of, explaining why a unit is good and why tactics, that you may employ are good for the army. I'm hoping that that'll at least give us a little bit of insight as to what the rules writers were thinking when they created the data slates for each unit in the army, because I would definitely like to know what the rules writers were thinking when they wrote the Battle Demi Company in Angel's Blade. And while I don't think any of us will ever know on that aspect of things, at least in 8th edition, from what GW has said, we will be able to absorb a little bit as to what they were thinking when they were creating the data slates, and hopefully that'll be, like I said, a nice level of transparency, and it'll perhaps help people that are, not really sure, how their army transitions from 7 to 8th, or it'll sort of push people in the right direction as to not necessarily how they should play their army, but what options they have to play their army. So anyway, that will be it for this video. This video has gone on past 30 minutes. I was not expecting that, but regardless, it's been it's been a heck of a weekend for us here, playing 40K, and overall, we'll have to just wait and see what they do with it. I'm really hoping 8th edition will be great. If it's not, then I don't know. Keep playing 7th, or I don't know, create your own edition. I don't know. But regardless, that's all I got time for in this video, guys. I'm very curious to see and read what you guys have to say down below in the comment section. Do you think this is good that GW is releasing an FAQ before the edition comes out? Do you think it's, GW is still full of crap? I, for one, feel a certain sense of honesty coming from them. I feel like they've acknowledged the fact that, yeah, we screwed up in the past. Here's why you should trust us now, because we're different than the way we were now. But overall, like I said, what really matters is the execution of this new edition, and hopefully they've learned their lessons from Age of Sigmar and 7th edition, and so that 8th edition really will be the greatest that 40K has ever been. So anyway, feel free to leave your comments down in the comment section below. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.